From the Rafters of Rupp is brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, Bud's Gun Shop, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Community Trust Bank, Friends of Coal, and by Kentucky Farm Bureau.
Hello everybody, and welcome to From the Rafters of Rupp. I'm your host, Kyle Macy. Kentucky basketball is iconic, not only for winning 8 national championships, but also how the Big Blue fan base supports and follows their players. Worship might not be too much of an exaggeration. Many say that following is what truly makes Kentucky basketball. From UK's first All-American Basil Hayden to Louis Dampier and Tubby Smith, or any member of this year's Kentucky Wildcat squad, Cat fans can't get enough. Here on Rafters, I not only talk with players and coaches who've been honored by having their jerseys hanging in Rupp Arena now, but I also have conversations with players who may get there in the future. And if you've missed any of those previous episodes, you can find all of them on our YouTube channel at From the Rafters of Rupp. We have another outstanding show for you today as we take a look at one of Kentucky's all-time assist leaders, Roger Hardin. Roger's story begins in Veedersburg, Indiana, where his father, Al Hardin, coached basketball at Fountain Central High School. Just after Roger turned 5, his father moved the family to Colorado, where Al served as the assistant coach at Denver University. Roger discusses his time in Denver and shares how the family came back to Valparaiso, Indiana, before his high school playing days began.
He took the assistant coaching job at the University of Denver as I was going into the first grade. Actually, it was kindergarten. So he moved us out to Denver, and he eventually became the head coach at the University of Denver. And I didn't really know my dad that much. He was always gone recruiting, and I think he did it more for family reasons, to get out of coaching. But he moved us back to Northwest Indiana. He wanted me and my brothers to be able to play high school basketball in Indiana.
In talking with athletes about their careers, I'm always curious to know, was there a moment in time when they realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this, or I want to be a basketball player? I asked Roger if he recalls having that type of moment in his life.
I think when my father moved us back to Indiana, and we'd have 2,000 people showing up for our middle school games, that's when the lights went on for me, and that's where I really started to dream, and my work ethic really escalated, and I spent, I would say, 90% of my day in the summer, and in the off season, I was playing basketball somewhere.
Roger averaged 14 points a game as a sophomore at Valpo and 21 as a junior, 27.1 points per game as a senior, with a single game high of 46. In 1982, Roger Hardin was named the state of Indiana's Mr. Basketball.
If you grew up in Indiana, that was always something that you wanted to achieve. You probably didn't say it out loud, but I was happy for my town to be able to do that for my town, because we had great fans in Valparaiso that turned out. I mean, we would probably have 5,500 to 6,000 people every night to support us. So I was glad I could accomplish that for our city, and it was, I was the first one. Actually, I was the second one to make the All-Star team. My older brother was the first to make the Indiana All-Star team. Just making that was a great honor. But to be Mr. Basketball was a great honor.
Scholarship offers for Roger poured in. He narrowed his choices down to Purdue, Indiana, Florida, Michigan, and Kentucky. I asked Roger what was the deciding factor for him in choosing the Big Blue.
When my father took the job, it was 1978, and his first assignment was to cover the Final Four in St. Louis, and me and my brother were with him. So we got to watch our 78 team win a national championship, and we got to experience, back then it was Wildcat country. All the fans had white cowboy hats with a K on it, and so we had never experienced that before. And my dad always told us, if you're good enough, even though I played at Indiana, you want to go to Kentucky. But my idol from 8th grade on was a guy that wore number 4 at the University of Kentucky, and if Kentucky wanted me, that was the dream that I wanted to live, was to go play at Kentucky and try to win a national championship.
We'll be right back with more of my conversation with Roger Hardin after these words from our sponsors.
We all love being outside, but sometimes nature does not want to cooperate. That's where Bud's Gun Shop and Range comes in. Practice your shot in our indoor, temperature-controlled shooting range, or work with one of our experts to choose the right firearm for your next outdoor experience. Bud's Gun Shop and Range. Find it here.
Hunt Brothers Pizza has been proudly serving communities across America for over 30 years. Download the Hunt Brothers Pizza app to find one of our 8,000 locations inside a convenience store near you. Choose from Hunt Brothers Pizza's original crust or thin crust, then customize your pizza with any of our 10 toppings to choose from at no extra charge. With that many options, there's sure to be a topping combination for everyone to enjoy a Hunt Brothers Pizza. Call ahead and order yours today.
Today's Wildcat Memory is brought to you by Rafters. Gather, eat, drink.
If you've ever been in that position with the intensity of pressure and the challenge of the past success, not only that I had experienced personally, but the program itself, it wears on you. And I would go a month without seeing my kids standing up. They'd be in bed by the time I got home, and they'd be off to school time I'd get up. And that was a strange kind of life. And I had a desire to live like a normal person.
The 1982 Kentucky recruiting class included only 3 players, and yet was rated as one of the top recruiting classes in the nation. Along with Roger, the Cats signed Todd May, Kentucky's Mr. Basketball, and Georgia's Mr. Basketball, Kenny Skywalker. Kentucky's roster was already loaded with veterans, Melvin Turpin, Derek Horde, Dirk Minifield, and Jim Master, just to name a few.
Well, Coach Hall was real honest with me. Physically, I was underdeveloped. I hadn't really started lifting weights till I came to Kentucky. I think I was $158 when I showed up here. So I realized, skill-wise, I was okay, but the physicality of the game was overwhelming to me. So it took me a while to adjust to that.
With the talented veteran group of Wildcats on board, Roger played sparingly during his freshman year. Overall, the Cats' 1983 season produced an SEC championship and a 64-59 upset over number 5 Indiana in the NCAA Mid-East Regional Semifinals. However, the '83 season is mostly remembered for the meeting between UK and Louisville in the finals of the Mid-East Regional in Knoxville, Tennessee, with a trip to the Final Four on the line.
We played for our fans, right? And we knew what was on the line going into the game. You talk about a long bus trip back from Knoxville to Lexington, knowing that you got beat by Louisville. And you're not only that, but you're gonna have to live with it all summer. But we were thrilled to get our monkey off the back starting the first game of the following season. We couldn't wait for that game.
Cats guard Dickie Beal nursed an injured knee to begin the 1983-84 season, and Roger stepped into the starting point guard role at the beginning of his sophomore year at UK.
And I started, I think, the first 19 games until Dickie was rehabilitated and was able to come back and take over the helm, because he had the maturity and the poise. Later on in that year was the MVP of the Mideast region. So I knew I was just kind of a point guard, but I just had to hold the fort down until Dickie could get back, and really, he was a senior that year. And we were a different team when Dickie came back and took over the helm.
The '84 Cats won the SEC regular season title, the SEC tournament championship, and entered NCAA play 26-4, ranked number 3 in the country. Kentucky then posted victories over BYU, Louisville, and Illinois to earn a Final Four matchup against Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas in the Sky Dome in Seattle, Washington.
Going into that game, Georgetown, we were determined to go out and be the aggressor. Coach Hall wanted us to be more physical than they were. And I think we established that with them early. And I think when we got in the locker room, we felt like, hey, they were supposed to be the Hoyas, and we're not feeling none of this. And I think we felt like we went out the second half with a different mindset. I think we felt like possibly we had broken them, or this isn't as bad. What I really would like to know is, what did John Thompson say in his locker room? Because they came out a different team and they jumped on us defensively, and we never recovered from it.
Kentucky led Georgetown by 7 at the half, but shot a dismal 3 of 33 in the second half, losing to the Hoyas 53-40. We'll be right back with more of my conversation with Roger Hardin after these words from our sponsors.
There are buttons to button, snacks to prepare, math problems to help with, and boo-boos to kiss. If you have people who need you, you need life insurance. Talk to a Kentucky Farm Bureau agent about a policy that protects the ones you love. Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. Big on commitment.
The coal industry's had a big impact on my life. My grandfather was a coal miner, my father was a coal miner. Coal is the largest driving force in our local economy. Have you ever wondered why developing countries don't have the same water and air quality we do? That's because affordable and abundant energy dramatically improves environmental quality and climate safety. You know, I want that for my daughter and her kids as well. That's why I'm a friend of coal.
When Roger Hardin returned to Lexington for his junior season, the Kentucky lineup had undergone some major changes. Gone to the NBA as first-round selections were UK's twin towers, Sam Bowie and Melvin Turpin. And starters Jim Master and Dickie Beal were taken in the later rounds of the draft by the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, we actually started that year. First of all, that was what was, quote, a rebuilding year. Everybody else besides Kenny was a role player the year before, and so it took some time for us to gel together, but we also started that season. Winston Bennett had a knee surgery, James Blackman had a knee surgery, so they were not full strength until probably mid-season.
The 84-85 Cats suffered early season losses to Purdue, Indiana, and Louisville, and started the year with a 1-win and 4-loss record. The uncharacteristic slow start for the Kentucky program led to some uneasy moments in the relationship between Coach Hall and his starting point guard.
I would say there was an episode midway through my junior year where we actually got into a verbal confrontation at halftime of a game. It was about being able to shoot the ball, and so it came out, and from that point on, had a great relationship with him. Had a tremendous relationship with him. Enjoyed playing for him. I always enjoyed playing for Kentucky, but I didn't always enjoy playing for Coach Hall. But my junior year, I started to really enjoy playing for Coach Hall. We were communicating.
Kentucky managed a 16-12 record in the rebuilding year and played well enough toward the end of the season to secure an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. In the first 2 rounds, the Cats posted upset wins over Washington and number 9 UNLV. Roger discussed what led to Kentucky's late season surge.
There was a point before we started that postseason, we had a team meeting, and we knew that a lot of our issues came from the fact that we're not playing cohesive basketball. Our chemistry's off. Our chemistry's off between not necessarily between ourselves, but it's between us and more of the staff. And we have a meeting with Lake Kelly, and I think Coach Ham might have been in that. And, everybody got to air some things out. We had to get simpatico as a team with our staff and with each other. So we got that straight going into the tournament.
Kentucky trailed number 3 St. John's by just 1 point at the half. Second half foul trouble and an in-game eye injury to Kenny Skywalker contributed to the Cats' eventual 86-70 loss and Kentucky's exit from the tournament. To the surprise of the Cat fans and his players, Coach Joe B. Hall announced his retirement immediately following the game.
We had gone through our post-game media, and we had all gotten dressed and gotten on the bus, and we're waiting for him to come to the bus because he always talked to Kaywood. So we thought he was wrapping up with Kaywood, and we were ready to go. I think we stayed at the downtown Hilton in Denver. We were ready to go back to the hotel, and I think one of the managers or somebody came on and said, "Hey, you're not going to believe this. Coach Hall just resigned on air with Kaywood."
Now, as Roger prepared for his senior season, the Blue Blood Kentucky program was in search of a new head coach.
In the beginning, we thought it was going to be Lute Olson. Actually, Mr. Hagan brought him through Wildcat Lodge, and a lot of us met him, and we thought it's going to be Coach Olson. For 2 days, we thought it was going to be Lute Olson. And then, of all things, it's Coach Sutton now. When we played in Salt Lake City and we upset Washington and UNLV that year, Coach Sutton, Arkansas, was in that same region. And we watched the game before we played, and Coach Sutton got tossed out of that game because he took his jacket off and threw it into the stands, and he got a technical, and they got beat that year. Yeah.
We'll be right back with more of my conversation with Roger Hardin after these words from our sponsors.
It's a place you know. It's people you trust. It's welcoming, like a friend. It's a place of volunteers. A place of givers, movers, and shakers. Friday night lights and Saturday yard sales. It's the original social network. It's your community, and we're proud to be a part of it. Community Trust Bank. Building communities built on trust.
Whether you're cheering on the Cats
or your favorite high school team,
there's nothing like basketball time in the Bluegrass. It's a Kentucky tradition. And so is Clark's Pump & Shop.
There's no better place than Clark's
to get you game day ready.
Whether you're heading out or staying home, Clark's has a huge selection of snacks, drinks, and an incredible combination of fresh food. Now that's a lineup that can't be beat.
Clark's Pump & Shop. Return,
refresh,
refuel.
Before coming to Kentucky, new head coach Eddie Sutton had taken Arkansas to 9 straight NCAA tournaments, with one Final Four appearance in 1978. Of course, that loss in the 1978 Final Four was to the Kentucky Wildcat team that went on to win the national championship. Roger recalls his first interaction with Coach Sutton.
It was a Saturday morning, and I'm walking out of the lodge, which back then was on the other side of Memorial Coliseum, and the coach would always pull up and park on that side. So I'm walking across, and I see Coach Sutton pulling up. He's got a fro, he's got on shades, and he's in a convertible 450 Mercedes SL, and he's got music playing, okay, as he's pulling in. So I'm like, wow, I got to check this guy out, right? Coach Sutton was a master at, I thought, with his personal relationships, and so I immediately, was gravitated to Coach Sutton. We bonded really quick.
Coach Sutton installed the 3-guard lineup of Ed Davender, James Blackman, and Roger Hardin, along with All-American Kenny Walker and his 20 points per game. The Wildcats captured the SEC regular season title with a 17-1 conference record. The Cats then won the SEC tournament championship, defeating Alabama in the finals. Roger talks about the bond the team shared on that 1985-86 Cat squad.
There wasn't a guy on that team that didn't believe we were going to win the national championship that year. That was the closest team and the closest relationship I've had with a group of guys that I think I ever will have with a group of guys. We were like brothers that year. The chemistry was off the chart.
In the NCAA Southeast Regional, Kentucky downed Davidson and Western Kentucky in the first 2 rounds. Then, in the Southeast semifinals, Kentucky knocked off Alabama for the 4th time that year to advance to the Elite 8. With a trip to the Final Four on the line, the Cats faced Coach Dale Brown and an LSU team that the Big Blue had also already beaten 3 times that season.
The NCAA, they come in, they got former FBI guys talking to us in between my junior and senior year, yada, yada, yada. They try to get people to say stuff, okay, and then we get cleared. So I felt like the NCAA could not let us win a national championship that year. They took too much criticism, and I think that's why we got in the bracket with 2 teams. We beat Bama on a last-second shot down there. We blow them out at home. But then LSU, those were always back and forth. So, like you said, they put us in a bracket, they put us in a position where we were going to have to beat both those teams 4 times.
Roger Hardin was drafted in the 5th round of the 1986 NBA draft by the Los Angeles Lakers.
Coach Dickey calls me and says, hey, did you hear you got drafted by the Lakers? So I immediately take all my Celtic stuff off the wall. I'm now purple and gold, right? And then I make it about 5 games into the exhibition games. They call them the exhibition games. You know all about that. So I made it 5 games into the exhibition season before they waived me. Pat Riley called me at 8:03 in the morning at the Park Hotel, which is right next to it, and said, hey, I'm going to have to do this. I got to waive you, but so it was a great, what a way to finish a career, right, in the locker room. But those guys were fantastic.
When Roger's playing days ended, he returned to Lexington to join the Kentucky staff with former head coach Eddie Sutton. The coaching path has led to several stops along the way for Roger, and he's currently the coach at Carroll County High School here in Kentucky.
Style-wise, the game has changed so much, it's not even fair to compare the era that I played for Coach Hall or even really for Coach Sutton, but I have a lot of pent up, I probably need to go to therapy because I don't care if my guards throw it to the block because I always had to throw it to the block, okay? So anytime my guards miss a guy that's posting it up, I don't really flip out much. It's cool, right? So, but I want my kids to just have fun. So we run, we shoot a lot of threes, and want to give them a good experience.
Roger has played and competed in games of basketball for his entire life. We discussed where his experience at Kentucky ranks in his memories of the game.
I just always felt like for 4 years, I woke up a point guard at the University of Kentucky, so I really felt like I was at the center of the universe the way I grew up, because basketball was everything to me. And I just couldn't believe that I got to play at the University of Kentucky, and for 2.5 years, I was a point guard for the University of Kentucky. I didn't think you couldn't have put me in a boy band. Okay, I could Backstreet Boy. You want to be a Backstreet Boy? You want to be this guy, or would you like to be the point guard at the University of Kentucky? I want to be the point guard at the University of Kentucky. And the way that Coach used us to make people's day, the amount of times that we would go into the communities and speak and do stuff like that, those by far are my best memories about being a Kentucky basketball player. And you knew what you represented. You were going to talk about academics, you were going to talk about respect and authority, you were going to talk about staying away from drugs and alcohol. So you felt like you were doing something bigger than just being a basketball star.
While at Kentucky, Roger Hardin was a part of 3 SEC regular season titles, 2 SEC tournament championships, 2 Elite 8 teams, and 1 Final Four team. His 232 assists in the 1985-86 season set the single-season assist record at UK before John Wall, then Tyler Eulis, broke it several years later. Roger currently ranks 3rd on the all-time list of assist career leaders at Kentucky. Roger Hardin's passion, his love and respect for the tradition of Kentucky basketball came through loud and clear during the course of this interview. The Big Blue Nation continues to honor and celebrate Roger Hardin and his many accomplishments while wearing his number 23 jersey at the University of Kentucky. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next time, when we hear more tales from the Rafters of Rupp.
From the Rafters of Rupp was brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, Bud's Gun Shop, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Community Trust Bank, Friends of Coal, and by Kentucky Farm Bureau.